Is there a way that we could write off Sidney? Because we know she's not going to die. That's already been said so many times. Is there a way to write this character off and just close that arc forever?
Well, I mean, I've said this many times. 3 was just such a good way that they closed it off, and so you can't you can't redo that. But obviously, if her family is intact to some degree or what have you, that's how you do it. I mean, at this point in her life, her most important thing is her family. Which I will say is cool that it raises the stakes for her. The downside, as you've said many times, is that we know that she's not gonna die. But you know what? Wouldn't it be crazy? And look, nobody in the chat get mad at me, okay? Because I love Sidney Prescott as much as anybody. I really do. But wouldn't it be just a hiccup if whenever this thing is over, whether it's 8 or 9, if they do the 9 and it's like a whole arc, that she actually does die, maybe saving her child or one of her children or whatever. Like, I don't know, but
every final,
the cool way, the happy way is just that her family is safe and she's happy with her family, and let her go and have her life.
At this point, every final girl or guy or whatever has died. I mean, all seven installments in. Right? I mean, Laurie Strode's died a bunch of times. And Nancy's died. Like, you name it. Alice died. Right? Like, all of, like, eventually they end up dying. Right?
Yep. Sally died.
Sally died. Right? Like,
viciously.
And that's my thing. Like, even Kevin Williamson recently spoke on how he wants Sidney to have a happy ending. Right? Like, was his whole thing. And it's like, how? Like, how can Sidney have a happy ending when you keep, like, and that's the thing I see, like, with the fandom, period, right? You get a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't want Sidney to die. I want her to have a happy ending, but I don't want Scream movies without Sidney. You can't have both, right? Like, Sidney can't have a happy ending, and we continue to make Scream movies, which they're not going to stop, right? So, like, you can't, like, so either A, you're okay with having Scream and no Sidney, or you're okay with her not having a happy ending, because she can't have a happy ending. She's constantly be attacked. And then also the trailer, it looks like Mark dies. How could she have a happy ending if her husband dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or if her daughter dies?
Because Patrick Dempsey could swoop in and swoon her.
And be the Dr. Sexy, Dr. Sexy MD, right? Like,
I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Like, at this point, I don't think she can have a happy ending. I thought after Scream 5, Scream 6, they did a great job, right? Then they mentioned, hey, what about Sidney? Should we call her? And Gail's like, you know what? She deserves her happiness. She deserves her peace. I thought that was a great kind of ending to her, because it's like, okay, she came back one last time to avenge Dewey. That's the only thing that would get her back. The only thing that would get her back is to avenge her one of the loves of her life in Dewey Riley. And take out Ghostface. She did it. She accomplished it. Rode off in the sunset. She's happy. She has her family now. She has her husband. Life's good. Happy ending. Mm-hmm. But no, we had to bring her back. And it's why I keep saying, like, I don't want to keep bringing her back. I understand why you did it for this film, but at some point it's like, just let her be. Like, so
yeah, I think at some point, like, I would be so fine with just this movie. Like, let's say 7 just ends with her, defeating Ghostface. Once again, she saved her family, and we never come back to Sidney Prescott. I'd be fine with that. I think that would be a fine way to finish off her story. Just to say that, hey, she defended her family. And I think when you look at other franchises that have gone on as long as Scream, that have, found our main character now has a family, there's a baby involved. These are typically where a lot of franchises go to die, like when characters like this have a kid. So I could see this like being the last one, in a lot of ways, and with Sidney at least. Kind of closing that story off and then just moving Scream into a whole new direction moving forward, which I think some people never want to hear that. Some people are like Scream is Sidney Prescott, and I totally understand that. But again, I have to agree with Fate here. They're gonna keep, like, Scream is going to outlive Neve Campbell. It's going to outlive Courtney Cox and David Arquette. Like this is too big of a franchise not to. Halloween, you know what I mean? Halloween has gone on for 13 movies, and that it was never the intention.
Right. Never.
In the first place. Never.
Nowhere
no,
near.
No. Knight and I just talked about that.
It's only a matter of time before we're about to get an announcement for a new Halloween trilogy.
Right.
Like,
yeah, we're gonna get another one. Like,
right.
Within the next 5 years.
But see, the thing about Halloween, every other franchise, every other major franchise, the advantage that they have is that the main draw is the villain. You know, you're seeing Halloween for Michael. You know, you're seeing Elm Street for Freddy, Friday for Jason. And even though we have characters that are big in them, especially Laurie Strode, Laurie's not in every film. And Laurie, like you guys have said, obviously has been killed off, and she's been played by a different actress because she's not the draw. It's Michael. Whereas with Scream, it's the only major horror franchise where it's the opposite. Like Ghostface is obviously well known, you know, great on the poster, but it was the characters that really drew people in, especially the OG3. And then, of course, they moved to the core 4. And so it's been a gift and a curse for Scream. And I've always contemplated that conundrum because it's like at some point, Nev Campbell is not going to do a Scream film. We have to move on. We already killed off Dewey. We have to move forward. And it's ironic, too, because with Scream, anybody could be Ghostface for any reason on the planet. You could do anything, anywhere. Doesn't have to be on a certain holiday. It doesn't have to be at a certain campground. It doesn't have to be on a certain street in the USA. It could be anywhere, but yet it's shackled. So it's interesting to me. It really is.
I don't know. I would argue with. Go ahead, Jake. Sorry, did you?
I'll just say I think there is a way that you could unshackle it. You know what I mean? Where like I do agree, like Michael Myers, like just because of his MO, you know what I mean? He's always going to be going back to Haddonfield. It would be a near impossible task, I think, to write. And there's really not, if you look at the whole franchise, there's not too many that don't take place in Haddonfield in the Halloween series. That's a hard thing to write, you know, unless you're changing up, you know, the DNA of who Michael Myers is. With Ghostface, you can kind of just apply that to any group of character in that world with what they've done in the sequels, kind of what they've developed Ghostface into, especially with 6. Like 6 turns Ghostface into like this thing that, you know, people are kind of obsessed with online. And maybe certain unsavory groups decide to don the mask for whatever sinister purpose they may have. So I feel like if that's the route that they push the franchise in next, you can have whoever characters, but I do agree that you can't just throw, you know, B-list characters at this franchise. It won't work. You have to have characters that you're gonna love at the core of this thing, otherwise it's not Scream. So that to me is the hurdle moving forward. It's creating characters who are great that will become beloved just like these characters, and that's a really difficult task. That's probably one of the hardest parts of making a new Scream movie.
Yeah.